everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies, and in this episode we will be getting one step closer to completing a franchise that we started covering back in May. We've been working our way up through the last couple of months to get to the new one, which is coming out next month, in the month of October. So this is going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which is the prequel to the remake. This came out in 2006, 3 years after the remake. And we're going to get into that. I'll just give you a full spoiler warning right now. You shouldn't care about spoilers because it's terrible. So just stick around, hear all the spoilers. It doesn't matter. You're fine. And we're going to do this. We're going to do this. I mean, I already told you what I thought of it. Tim, did you like Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning?
Not at all. Not at all. This is such a nothing movie. It is insane how pointless and forgettable it is. I started.
Oh, Tim, this is so forgettable. I knew I'd seen this before. And I didn't remember a single goddamn thing.
So I had thought that I'd seen it before. Then I started watching it and started going, maybe I haven't seen it before. And then I just watched it yesterday, and I'm still not sure if I've seen it because I don't remember a goddamn thing. It is so in and out. It's insane.
I'll after the setup, there's the first half an hour which is mostly pretty well defined. Once they actually get taken by by Ermey's character, the bad guys, and go to the house, it just all kind of blurs together for the next hour. It just keeps going. Nothing's really happening, and then there's a couple of kills, and it ends just kind of there, and nothing. We've not achieved anything. It's got that prequel syndrome where it feels the need to tell us how Ermey got his cop uniform. So we get that origin story. We get the origin of Leatherface and how he was born. We'll get to more than that in a minute. We'll get to how he got his mask, and also, and this is the one that really baffled my head, that they really had to feel that they had to answer. They gave us the origin of this family being cannibals, how they decide to start eating people, because they weren't at the start of this movie. And then Ermey's like, "Oh, we're never going to be starving again. We're going to start eating people." And it's this moment, and I'm like, "No, why are you doing this? Just they've always been this way. Just say they've always been this way."
So many questions that no one was asking being answered.
No one was asking any of this. It is god awful. Right. So let's just start at the start. I want to talk about the opening scene of this, Timmy.
Okay.
Because we start in the slaughterhouse, and there's a cat, and there's a woman working, and she's in labour, and the evil foreman's telling her to work harder or whatever, and then her water breaks. We see her violently shake, and her water's breaking, and she falls to the floor, and she's violent. She's in pain. This baby's damn near killing her, and I'm like, are you kidding me? We're seeing the water and the blood run down her leg, and you're saying that he was already violent in the womb. That's how terrifying Leatherface is. Honestly, Tim, this was so stupid that I was half expecting a little chainsaw to come through from the inside of the stomach and saw out from the inside.
My question is, did she know that she was pregnant, or why the hell was she still working if she was that close to labor? And how shitty is her boss that he doesn't care that she's about to give birth?
Well, I think that was the point. I think the point was that the boss was so terrible that he was making her work.
It was just so on the nose, the backstory of this kid. It's oh no, I always just assumed from the other movies he was just a normal person, but raised in this kind of backwoods, crazy, cannibalistic town and family or whatever, and that's all you need to know. You don't have to give everything a huge from the moment he was born, things were rough, and you said, he was violent and crazy in the womb, and
right. So the foreman apparently just dumps him in a dumpster somewhere, where the mother finds him and takes him back to the house. And despite this, he ends up working at the same slaughterhouse with the same foreman once he's an adult.
like hasn't aged.
Who hasn't aged, of course.
No.
You know, and here's the thing: so the slaughterhouse is shutting down, right? We're at this point. This town's becoming a ghost town. The slaughterhouse is finally closing shop, and this other guy who's working there is like, that Thomas Hellet's still out there, and you know he's got like this Hannibal Lecter mask on. He's not got his Leatherface yet, so he's got this sort of lower mouth mask thing.
So stupid.
And he's just beating meat. He's just beating meat and chopping meat, because that's what he likes to do. He's like, all right, go and tell him to leave, and he's like, me? And he goes down, and he's like, yeah, you have to leave now, Thomas. Yeah, you have to go, and blah blah blah. And you know, they talk about him behind his back, in front of his face, really harshly. And lo and behold, Leatherface ends up killing the foreman. He comes back later and does that. And then, of course, finds a chainsaw. And it's like this, you know, biblical moment where he finds a chainsaw for the first time. And it's like, oh, I'll take that. And, you know, he walks home with his chainsaw.
And again, it's so much better when the chainsaw is just like a weapon he uses. Like, he uses it because he doesn't see people as people. He sees them as meat. And it's just, the chainsaw is just a tool he uses. Like, it doesn't need to be this big, epic, like, you know, sword in the stone thing where it's like, oh, it was meant to be. It's like, no, it's just a tool he uses.
Are they implying that he's never killed anyone before this? Like, this was the first time he snapped and killed someone?
That's what I assumed, but at the same time, it's not like they really showed him being a normal person who snaps. It's like, from the moment you see him chopping the meat, it's like, oh, he looks like a deranged killer.
There's no subtlety, and you can tell this was made during the Saw boom.
Oh yeah,
a lot of frantic little shots here or there. No, it's not quite as bad as Saw, but you can tell it's sort of aping some of that style. There's some of it creeping in.
Yeah. Now, I think this might be the worst Leatherface has looked in the movie so far. I don't like this mask. I don't know much about wrestling, but wasn't there a wrestler that kind of looked like this? Was it like Mankind or something that kind of had like a similar mask and kind of similar hair?
Kinda, yeah. Okay, similar hair, certainly. I'd argue the mask is a bit different, but yeah, I can see where you're going with it.
I don't know much about wrestling, but that's it kept popping in my head.
Although the thing is, though, Mankind's not 7 foot tall.
True.
Oh, like this dude. Which this is something that both this and the Halloween remake had to do. It's like, oh, let's make him 7'5". He's a monster. Yeah. He's giant. He's huge. It's like, you know what? He doesn't have to be huge to be scary when he's wielding a chainsaw. Which, by the way, of course, this is the first one with more than one chainsaw kill. Now, admittedly, I don't remember counting them in 2 or 3, so I might be wrong here, right? But there wasn't a lot because this became a running joke for us where we got to 4 in the remake. It's like these still only have one chainsaw kill each. The first one only has one chainsaw kill. 2 or 3 may have 1 or 2 more. I'm not sure, but it's been a thing where there's hardly any chainsaw kills. This one has 4.
Yeah.
Plus 2 leg amputations.
Again, another question that no one wanted answered. Yeah, hey, how'd that guy from the other movie lose his legs?
Yeah, that was the thing. You see him walking around in this. I'm like, oh, great. We're going to get the story of how he lost his legs. Why is he in a wheelchair in the next movie or in the previous movie? And it's like, no one cares. And this is why I hate prequels. It's just this like, oh, let's answer every possible thing that could be answered. When some of it's just better left in imagination. It just is. It annoys me so much.
Especially with like horror movies, you know, I don't want to say that, you know, people should be lazy or anything, but I do feel like it, you know, with horror movies, you can kind of get away with having a sequel, just, you know, having like the same kind of plot as the first one, you know, hey, teens get lost and a killer chases them.
To be fair, like, it actually is the same plot outside of the few things we've mentioned.
Yeah, but you don't need to do this, like, all this prequel nonsense where...
Oh, no, you don't. Yeah, a sequel would have... I mean, it might have still been a terrible movie, but it would have been at least not the annoying prequel elements that we're talking about. Which I guess leads us to our heroes, our teens. Well, not teens, they're 20-something, but... So we have 2 couples. The two guys are brothers. They have their 2 girlfriends. Jordana Brewster, of course, is you know, this is right in between before Fast and the Furious got big. So she's, you know, Well, she's not really a star now either, but at least she's got a steady paycheck from those movies. She's your main girl here. You've got her boyfriend who's going back to Vietnam. Because again, it's set just before it's set in like the early 70s, and or maybe the late 60s actually. I don't know. I don't know if it was clear. I don't know if it told me at the start of the movie.
It does say at some point it was 60. I think 67, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, because I think at the end it said 68 to 73. They killed however many
something
people.
like that. Yeah.
So,
but yeah, one thing that I didn't need in this movie was like some little political aspect. Not that it gets like super political, but I don't need like our main heroes talking about Vietnam and using racial slurs and stuff.
Yeah, I definitely didn't need the racial slurs. I wouldn't really say it was political because I don't think that was the. I think yeah, like typically if this sort of stuff comes up, it could be a political discussion. I think here though, it's really just this is like their shallow attempt at giving one of them an arc where the younger brother doesn't want to go to Vietnam. He's ready to like burn his what card would you call it? The draft card.
Draft card.
Yeah. And he's ready to go to Mexico so that he doesn't have to go and fight in Vietnam. And his older brother's disappointed in him. It's a point of contention. And then, of course, they just, like, a random biker chick pulls them over with a shotgun, tries to rob them. They hit a cow as well, by the way. That's what happens here. That's why they stop.
It was insane how, like, and again, rewatching this, I remembered nothing from it. And, when this biker chick is, driving up next to him, I'm like, okay, so she's going to be, like, the badass character that, is gonna work with them to try to take down this family. No, she's killed in like 2 seconds.
Actually, because obviously Ermi shows up in the cop car and he basically just does the same thing he did in the first movie where he torments all the kids by being in charge, but also like kind of groping the girl a little bit and just generally being disgusting. But it's worth mentioning his scene where he kills the sheriff and takes his outfit. There's like no build up to it whatsoever. He just does it. Yeah. There's no tension, there's no suspense, and like they're there to capture Leatherface after he's killed the guy and he's just walking up the road with a chainsaw and the sheriff's trying to talk him down, and of course he leaves his shotgun not locked in the car, like it's just on the dashboard, and Ermi just pulls it out, shoots the sheriff, and it's just like that, and I'm like, okay, so what prompted that? Like you're telling me that they weren't like cannibals and stuff before now? And we start the movie with him shooting the sheriff. It's like, well, you have to. Well, he shot the sheriff, by the way. But he, like, it's like, what? Where's the arc? You're just starting here after the arc's happened.
Yeah, it's like what leads them down this path. It's like were they all, model upstanding members of the community before this day happened?
Yeah, like, it's so strange.
I think it's better to just assume that they were messed up and basically controlled this, small little town, instead of being like, oh no, they basically like took over and killed everyone. Okay.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that all the scares, if you want to call them that, all the kills, there's never any suspense or tension. Things just happen suddenly, often at random. In fact, we mentioned the biker chick. When we first see her, it's with a whole gang of bikers, and the couples are in the truck, like, or the car driving down the road, and there's like no like, oh, we see something in the distance, they're getting closer, what's that, is it a group of bikers? No, it just hard cuts to this group of bikers behind them, and then they just suddenly go, oh, there's bikers, and it just like, it just on a simple editing level, there's no build up to it, and it felt really just abrupt and weird and not earned, and that kind of sums up most of the goddamn movie. Like, everything just felt abrupt. Nothing built to it. The characters were just kind of... I wouldn't even say they were annoying. Like, they're not even interesting enough to be annoying. They're just so forgettable and bland and, like, nothing.
Like, at least in the last one, you can point to, like, oh, hey, you had the one guy that was kind of jokey, and then, the one that was kind of, like, the good-looking dumb guy, and that kind of stuff. And then this, it's like... Yeah, everyone's just pretty much the same. Yeah, the only difference is one brother wants to go to Vietnam, the other doesn't.
Yeah, there's like nothing to them. Like the only character quirk the main couple have really between them is that they're talking about baby names. Like that is their entire thing. Like they have nothing else, and that's it. Like okay, I guess. And the other thing as well is that that this biker girl has like a boyfriend who Jordana Brewster, because they actually have an opportunity at one point to do something really interesting, because when Ermi picks up the other kids, he doesn't know that she's there. She's like hiding off in the bush. And I thought, oh, they could do something interesting with her being unknown. Like, there's a third party that they're not aware of, like sneaking around and trying to help them. That could have actually been a really fun movie. And she finds this biker dude at one point, and she gets his help, and he just storms in with a gun, and well, okay, he's going to be this badass. He's going to go in and deal with some stuff. And he's there for like a minute, and then he gets killed really easy.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just done like that. And she does go in the house, and she does sneak around, and she sees the various people. We see her boyfriend get his face ripped off and become the mask, of course, and she sees the other girl who's kind of basically just in shock and not doing anything and whatnot.
And again, like, I don't like that it's a prequel and everything has to have a meaning, but I guess if you are going to do something, like maybe have there be some type of big gravitas for Leatherface getting his, leather face, but instead it is kind of just like, he looks at the face and is kind of like, oh, okay. I guess I'll wear this face now. It
legitimately just feels like a checklist. Oh, we need to do that, we need to do that, we need to do that.
Yeah.
Let's just do them without actually thinking about how to do them in an interesting way, how to build up to them. Like I say, nothing is built up to. Everything just happens suddenly. It's so annoying. But like I say, she does sneak around the house for a while undetected. But she doesn't really do anything. She just kind of sneaks around and sees lots of things. She sees different characters at different points. And then eventually, the moment she's discovered, like she achieves nothing, and then Ermi just walks in and sees her and cracks a one-liner, and then, she passes out, and we wake up. We cut to the dinner table scene. That's it. We're at the dinner table scene. Yeah. And everything I've just said, from the moment they're taken in that truck, or the cop car, from the moment they're taken after that accident, to this point in the movie, is about 45 minutes of time. And that is the best I can tell you what happened there. There's a couple of like almost escapes. At one point, Ermi beats up the younger brother. It's like, I'll make a man out of you yet. You should go to Vietnam, blah, 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 blah.
He talks about how he hates hippies and draft dodgers. And
yeah, because you're an upstanding citizen.
Yeah.
Upstanding citizen. So that's the end of the movie. And then what happens here? There's something interesting. We do something different, because we actually have 3 people at the dinner table, which is maybe the one interesting part of it. Is they have 3 of them are still alive. They're all at the dinner table. It's like, okay, right. So maybe we've got multiple people at the table. Maybe we'll do something different with that. The blonde girl gets shot or chainsawed or whatever. She gets killed, and then the main girl just gets away and she runs. So Leatherface chases her.
Mm-hmm.
That's
about it. She gets in a car, and drives off and
thinks she's away, and then oh no, Leatherface is in the back seat, chainsaw through the seat, which by the way was the 4th chainsaw kill, and I was like, man, a 4th one? Because like I say, there's usually been 1 so far.
Yeah. I mean, how this like towering behemoth like managed to get in and hide in the car, I have no idea.
I thought
and yeah, and everything just happens like, she's driving towards I think there was like a cop or something on the side of the road, and then he chainsaws her and she dies, and it just, everything feels like very fast, and there's no oomph to it. It's just like, oh, all right, that's it. And
it's like I said, there's no build up to anything. There's no here's half the scene where we slowly tease what might happen, then it happens. It just happens. And the end of the movie, he kills her, gets out the car and walks down the road, and then the narration comes in, which is basically just the opening narration from the first movie, but with a little like some extra bits and changed bits. But
it's like, it's so boring. It's like, you're not even going to like I don't know if they're like, if they don't think the original movie was like cool enough, like, oh, we can't have him like being all crazy and dancing with the chainsaw. Let's just have him coolly walk down the road. Like, oh man, what a badass. And it's like, no, like one of the things that was great about like the original movies is that this family was so unhinged. Like, they weren't trying to be intimidating or menacing. They were legitimately crazy. So you didn't really know like what you're getting when you're talking to them. Like, they'd be frantic, excited, and they'd cut themselves, and they'd like want to dance and jump around and stuff. And this, like, everyone is just so like grimy, and they're doing that horror thing where it's like they're trying to scare you as opposed to just being legitimately like weird and making you feel unhinged.
And then let's go back to the point where this movie gives them an origin where they decide to become cannibals. Like, they've only been doing it for a couple of years. Where you watch that original movie and you feel like they've just always been this way. This is, the grandpa's there. Like, this has just been generations of this is what they do.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, it raises more questions. Like they're showing us the stuff that I feel like we already kind of know. Like, the stuff that probably, again, don't like the idea of a prequel, but if anything, what would have been more interesting would probably show how this family kind of got together and how they grew up and what led them to make these decisions, which I guess seemingly all the decisions kind of just happened in this one day where they're like, all right, I guess I'll start killing people and I'll become the sheriff and we'll start eating people. But yeah, it probably would have been more interesting to see what actually led up to like what they were like before and what made them start doing this stuff apparently out of nowhere.
It just felt so forced. So there's that moment where he tells like the mother or the wife or whatever, no, I'm not Charlie anymore. Charlie's dead. I'm Sheriff Hoyt or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Hewitt.
Okay. No, because it's not his name. It's the cop that he took it from.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I can tell you right now. Yeah,
I don't know if we ever knew
Hoyt.
I don't know if we ever knew Leatherface's real name before.
I think we did.
Okay. Like, I remember the Hewitt family. I didn't know because he's Tommy now, according to this movie. I don't know if we heard that before.
I feel like he was the Sawyer family before, though, at some point.
Yeah, is the Hewitt thing a reboot?
I think Hewitt's the remake and Sawyer's the original. Hold on, I will find out. Let's go. The original's not here on the recommended list. Let's go to number 3 and see. Yeah, Sawyer's the at least in Next Generation it was, or 3 it was Sawyer. What about the first one? Does the first one tell me?
So yeah. I wonder why change it to.
The first one doesn't have any last names.
Okay.
What about number 2? Yeah, 2's got Sawyer. So Sawyer's definitely the original continuity names.
I wonder why they changed it for the reboot. Was it because Sawyer from Lost was so big?
No,
they didn't want to associate it.
Well, I know you're just joking, but the first movie was out before Lost, so couldn't have been that. I don't know why they changed it.
Yeah, I feel like reboot is often seen as like such like a dirty word, and and for the most part, they're usually not great and probably shouldn't be done. But I feel like even worse than reboots are whatever comes after the reboot. Like the movie after is always so much worse. Like, at least the reboot you can say one, like,
to be fair, because it doesn't always get another movie.
True, yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like I don't think we were like super positive about the reboot of this, but I mean, it's light years better than this movie.
Oh yeah, I think I gave it a 4 or 4.5 when we did it. Like,
yeah, I think I was a little higher.
I was harsher than I was expecting to be, but it really didn't. Not that I ever thought it was great, but in my memory, I thought it held up better than it did. And watching it, it was like, oh no, this is rough. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's like I missed that after this one. It's funny actually, because before I would have said Next Generation was easily the worst one, and I don't think it's that easy anymore.
No, it's not even a contest for me. This, I think, is easily the worst one, because at least
I don't know if this one's objectively worse, but it's definitely more boring to watch, because at least Next Generation has that batshit insane ending that it's like, okay, it was kind of worth getting through it just to see this stupid thing at the end.
Yeah,
this has nothing. What does this have? It has. It's so forgettable. It might as well not exist.
Yeah.
I wish it didn't.
For me, it's no contest. Like, if I had to rewatch all these movies again, like,
And you could only skip one.
yeah, it would definitely be this one. Like, Next Generation, I would gladly watch just for the cheesiness and the outrageousness of it. It is a lot more entertaining than this, which was just so dull and again forgettable. The characters are so lifeless and pointless, and
Yeah, and plus you get Matthew McConaughey in that one being crazy, so it's at least better
Yeah.
for that sense. But I will say they both kind of suffer from one of the same problems, though. Funnily enough, where once it gets to the house, it just all kind of blurs together for a while. This one blurred together for longer, but that Next Generation had that same problem where once they got in the house, it just felt like they were kind of there for a long time
yeah.
until the man showed up who was from the Illuminati, and then it picked up a bit.
Yeah, it's so I don't know. It legitimately made me angry how like boring and forgettable it was.
It's just, see, I was watching, I was like, man, what am I going to say about this? Like, after the opening scene where the whole baby thing and some of the setup and, like, the over explanation of, like, how he became the sheriff, how the guy lost his legs, how this, how that, how did he get his mask? I was like, what am I going to talk about? It is so bland. Like, the kills are whatever. They're not necessarily the worst things ever, but they're not the best.
Sure.
But there's no build up to them, so none of them really matter. So they're not fun sequences. You have this obnoxious loud soundtrack. You've got this cutting around like Saw. You've got all these different things, and
Like, nothing about it feels original. It feels like it's just trying to ape all the other movies of the time. Like it's really taking a lot from the style of the reboot and then other popular stuff of the time. Like, you can definitely see the influences of Saw and everything. There's no like identity to it
But
whatsoever.
here's the thing: you can have something that is derivative, but still just kind of funny. Because at least if the people who are making it love those types of movies. But I don't feel that here. This feels like a corporate make this because we want money for this weekend, and just hire a workman director, let him go and make something. And by the way, I checked to see if I knew this director from something. 'Cause the name looked vaguely familiar. Jonathan Liebsman is the director.
Okay.
I have a history with this director actually, because I actually bought a DVD, mainly
So
because.
So I didn't look any of this up, so I'm excited to see
Oh, okay.
what he's done.
So I bought a DVD when I was like 14, 15. Because it was cheap. I was buying a lot of DVDs up at the time. I was, kind of an avid collector. Still am actually, but it's just Blu-rays now.
I used to I think I mentioned this before, but I cut back a lot on movies when I started getting into comic books. But before I really got heavy into comic books, I literally would go to the store every Tuesday when new movies came out, and I would buy at least like one movie, a week. And I just ended up having this really mishmash collection where I'm just like, ugh, why do I own like iRobot and stuff like?
iRobot's not the worst thing. I mean, it's not the best thing either, but it's not the worst thing ever.
To me, it's a picture perfect example of it's not bad, but it's a why own this movie.
Yeah, sure. I think I own that actually. Now that you mention it, that's it. I don't think I've watched it. I've got it in Blu-ray. I don't think I've watched it since I bought it in Blu-ray though. Maybe once I watch it, I'll be like, oh my god, why did I buy this? Like, it was worth the one watch, but here I am.
I just think, and to be fair, this is like before everything was like streaming. So nowadays, like that kind of stuff, you probably wouldn't buy because you could just catch it like on Netflix or something. But yeah, like back in the day, it would just be a lot of movies like that aren't bad, but when I'd sit back and look at it, it's like, I don't know why I own this. Like I just bought it to buy something.
I get you. But anyway, before Tim set us off on a path, I was telling a story. So I bought a DVD and I liked horror movies. I was getting into horror movies at the time, and this was a horror movie, and I thought, oh, there's an actor in it I know. Emma Caulfield, who was on the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer's in this.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get that and see what it's like. Not knowing anything about it. This was before I checked reviews and anything like that.
Okay. Don't tell me the title because I want to guess if you're gonna give more details or clues. I want to see if I can get this.
I don't think I have. I don't think I remember anything else about it to tell you any more details or clues.
All right. Well, okay.
Okay. It's Darkness Falls.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan Liebsman directed Darkness Falls, and I hated that movie. I still hate that movie. It is absolute garbage. It is one of the coveted 1 out of 10s that I've given out.
Wow.
His
Might
next
have
film,
to do that.
his next film, maybe we'll have like a shit month where everything's like some of the worst things ever. His next film,
'Cause I'll be 100% honest with you. I remember kind of liking that when I first saw it. It's been a long time, so might have to revisit it.
to me, that was like everything that was wrong with like horror movies in the 2000s. Then it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning. That was the next one after that.
Oof.
Right? Now, I've never seen or even really know anything about The Killing Room, so no comment on that.
I don't know.
He then did Battle Los Angeles, Wrath of the Titans, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014.
Okay, yeah. This guy's not is bad news.
This guy is the Antichrist. What the hell? That is one of the worst like filmographies I have ever seen in my life. That is nothing but I mean, I've not even seen Wrath of the Titans or Battle of Los Angeles, but or even Turtles. I saw 20 minutes of Turtles, I turned it off, I couldn't do it. I hated Clash of the Titans, so I was never going to watch Wrath of the Titans. But it was meant to be worse, so I think I made the right call.
It's pretty bad. I actually didn't mind the Clash of the Titans reboot. I think there's some like cheesy fun stuff in it, and I'm kind of a sucker for like Greek mythology stuff. But yeah, Wrath was bad. I don't even know if I finished it. And Turtles is so god awful. It's like mind-boggling how like I hate the Transformers movies, but they don't bother me a super ton because I don't really have that much love for it as a franchise.
And honestly, the first one's okay. Like the first one's it's not a great movie, but it does what it's supposed to do well enough.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one you're gonna watch, it's gonna be that one. But I mean, yeah, to see the Turtles, franchise is very near and dear to my heart. Just to do what they did to it, it's I can't understand who they're making it for, how they can justify to themselves that they were doing a good thing. It is insane.
What gets harder though is when you say, okay, if you're going to put Turtles in the rankings with all the Transformer movies, like where does it land? Now, I've not seen the fifth one. I'm tempted to say yeah, I might watch it out of morbid curiosity. I didn't see it in the theaters, obviously. I'm not I'm not funding.
Yeah.
I've never doing that again. But morbid curiosity might make me just sort of put it on one day to see how much more of a train wreck it could be. But what?
I feel like I'm scared to watch it alone. Like I think I can only watch it with alcohol and friends around.
Because I seen the fourth one partly out of curiosity, partly to review it, and like they had that whole license, the rape license card thing. And I'm just like, oh man, come on now, we're done. Like, go away. This is stupid. And Mark Wahlberg was in it, which was just painful. It's like, no, lessons learned. You know what? I'm not helping fund this. And sure enough, I think a lot of people decided that because it still did okay worldwide, but like it ended up being the lowest performing one.
Thank you, Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes, thank you, Rotten Tomatoes. Oh dear. Speaking of Rotten Tomatoes, actually, the new Texas Chainsaw movie, Leatherface, which we're doing next month. Obviously, we get one more before then, but the one we're doing next month, it received a 1.9 from IMDb, and that not IMDb, sorry, IGN. IMDb don't. I mean, IMDb have ratings, but they're voted for. It's not.
Yeah.
No, IGN gave it a 1.9, and IGN's a website that I was pretty much convinced had forgotten what any number under 6 looked like. Because they're pretty easy to get a good score out of. They're pretty lenient. And
yikes.
That said though, I happened to look. I was like, oh, what's it like on Rotten Tomatoes? It's actually at 65%. Now it's only 8 reviews, to be fair. But some of the people who are saying it's good are actually proper reviewers. It's like Hollywood Reporter and Kim Newman's one of the positive ones. So
I think bare minimum, there's no way in hell it's as bad as this movie. Like, even if it is a train wreck or something, I will gladly welcome it over this.
See, I think Next Generation is a train wreck, but it's at least a wacky train wreck, whereas this is just a boring train wreck. This is a train wreck where the train just kind of slowed down and stopped, but it still looks like a wreck somehow.
Awful.
So no, maybe we'll. But of course, before we get to that, we've got Texas Chainsaw 3D to talk about.
That one I do remember.
I remember that one too. Alexander Daddario will make you remember movies. That's the first thing. What was that movie showing with The Rock? The disaster one.
The San Andreas.
San Andreas. Yeah. Yeah. That like. I mean, it was just a dumb movie. Like, I wouldn't say it's worth seeing unless you've got a crush on her. In which case, it's worth every second she's on screen. So.
Yeah. I could be 100% wrong, but I think was she in Burying the X?
I think so. Yeah, I think she was in that. I've not seen that though.
Okay. Actually, enjoyable movie. Actually,
Well, I believe that's a Joe Dante movie, and I like Joe
It is,
Dante,
yeah.
so I should probably check that out at some point.
Yeah, Joe Dante and the main actor, I forget his name, but really great actor that passed away last year, Anton Yelchin.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Important.
Yeah, new
He's a
Chekhov.
very good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he is quite good. Where was I going with my thought process before you?
I don't know. I feel like we're just trying to talk about any other movie.
It does kind of feel like that a little bit, but at least we kept it kind of. What we'll do, we won't do it just now. We'll wait until we see the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and then we'll rank them. At the end of that review,
Okay.
we'll rank each of us will rank the movies and see. I feel like they'll probably be pretty similar, but maybe
Yeah.
there'll be one or two differences.
There's slight differences, but
Yeah,
overall.
nothing super different. But here's I guess we're wrapping this up. I mean, I feel like we didn't go as in depth as we usually do, but I honestly, I am being genuine. Once they get to that house, the next like 45 minutes of that movie is a complete blur. It's just them in the house, her sneaking around, getting the biker.
There's really not much else to say. Like the like you said, there are more chainsaw kills, but they're not super memorable. Like I think the most memorable one is the end, with him popping up in the back seat and thrusting it through the
Honestly,
car seat.
The most memorable moment is the car hitting the cow.
Yeah, yeah.
That is the
True.
most memorable moment of this movie. It is bad. Jonathan Liebsman, I hate this asshole. I really do.
You know what I don't get is why the hell did they not like for a while I thought it was gonna end with like the final girl, even though she doesn't look like her. I thought they're basically gonna have her escape, but then she was gonna end up being the hitchhiker they pick up in the reboot, that they almost hit.
That would have been smart.
It seems like such a softball that I'm like, why is this not what you're doing? Like,
Do you know what?
you obviously want to do.
You answered your own question. It's because they'd have to cast the same actress, and it would be obvious that's what it was going to be. Because they couldn't trick you and have it be a reveal that it's her.
Okay, that's true.
That's why they didn't do it. But it is such a softball. Yeah, they could have done that. Man, I really hate Jonathan Liebsman. There's very few directors where I look at the list of movies and hate them this much. Like, just in terms of he gets work because he's probably cheap. He gets things done on time. He's
Like you said, he's probably like a corporate guy that's like, hey, you hire this guy, he will make sure to make a movie, and there's not going to be, a lot of problems or drama, with him.
Yeah, there's no drama in the movie either.
Yeah. Jesus.
I'm proud of that joke. That was good.
That was good, yeah.
I guess we'll wrap up. We're just killing time at this point, I think.
All right.
With that, I suppose we need to rate this this wet turd of a movie. So, Tim, what would you give Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning?
I mean, you mentioned before with how Darkness Falls got a coveted 1 from you, and
Oh,
I'm trying to think like, okay, I feel like 1's pretty harsh, but I'm trying to think of anything I liked about this movie that would, prevent it from being a 1. And
Were you angry when watching it? Like,
yes.
were you physically angry? Were you pissed off at it?
Yes.
Were you passionate about your hatred?
Yes, without a doubt.
Well, I say that justifies the one now. If that's how you felt when you were watching it.
I think to be just to be a little fair, I'm gonna give it a 2, just on the very small stipulation that, hey, they mixed the sound so I could hear it. They pointed the camera so I could see what was going on. Like, it's not like there's an aspect of it where it's like, okay, I could watch it.
The camera wasn't pointing at the floor.
Yeah.
That's a point.
I don't know. It's on thin ice. It's very close to like 1.5 territory,
Yeah.
but just for the sake of maybe really making it hurt more if we get another movie that's going to be a 1 at some point, because I don't know how many ones we've done.
Only 1 or 2. I've not had a lot of ones, I don't think. Actually, Joe, what I'm going to do, Tim, I'm going to try and do this over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
I'm going to make a database with a record of all of our scores.
Ooh. Oh, that's a great idea.
It's going to be tough because I'm going to have to go through all the episodes at the endings. Now, admittedly, it's actually easier for me because I keep track of my scores anyway, so I can just sort of put mine in, but your scores I'm going to have to find. You may expect a lot of messages over the next week. What would you give X movie?
Okay.
if I can't find it. But we rated them from the start, right? Like, we've been doing that since episode 1.
Yes, there were maybe a couple of episodes I missed though, so there might be a few I have to fill in. Like, probably 2 or 3 episodes I wasn't on, but
that's fair. Yeah. Just for statistics' sake, and like, how many ones did we give out this year? How many 10s did we give out this year? Kind of thing. I think it'd be fun for the end of the year when we're doing a best of list and all that.
Yeah. I know I've definitely given out more 10s than 1s, but
that means we need to start watching more shit, Tim.
Yeah.
Need balance in the force. What am I going to say? Yes. My rating. That's what we're getting at. I'm also going to give it a 2. I was never going to give it a 1. It was always going to be a 2. The reason being, the reason why it's not so much like finding a positive. It's more what it doesn't do, and that's be so absurdly bad that it made me angry. It's just so boringly bad and pointless. But I can't say that it's as bad as the stuff I've given a 1. Like, I can't say it's as bad as that. So 2 out of 10.
Now, one thing that maybe a little bit of a positive, but I mean, this isn't really on the movie. It's just kind of the happenstance. Is at least this is a prequel to the reboot, so even all this dumb stuff we can say, like, all right, this is just affecting this new rebooted timeline that we don't care about. Like, at least it doesn't mess around with the original, which is the one we care about more.
Which is what's about to happen with the new one.
So, man, the timelines are so confusing with these reboots and stuff. So the new one is a prequel to the original. Yeah. So it has nothing to do with the reboots. Okay.
And the next one we're doing, Texas Chainsaw 3D, is a direct sequel to the original, which may or may not ignore all the sequels after the first movie. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's hard to tell. So I don't know. We'll see. That's it though. Even if the new prequel sucks and it messes around with things, it's easy to ignore it, especially when it's this far after when it's this much after the fact. We're going to watch this. It's going to look like a new movie. It's not going to look like it feels like it's set before 1973, which is when it would be set.
Yeah.
So even if it is a wreck, it'll be easy to just kind of disconnect it in our heads and just never think about it, and that's okay.
It's fair. Yeah.
So it's not like when I'm watching Halloween 1, I'm like, oh my god, Halloween 6 is infecting this bullshit.
True.
Which, by the way, we did Halloween's 2, 3, 4, and 5 last year. That means that this year we're bound to do 6 in October with maybe another 1 or 2. So you can look forward to that.
Can't wait. I got my box set. I wanted to go ahead because I don't think I've ever seen 6, but patiently.
You're You waited.
awaiting. So as
Here's the question though. I think we're watching the theatrical cut. You can watch the producer's cut in your own time.
okay,
I think I want us to watch it and review it as it is when it got released.
okay, that's fair.
I did watch the producer's cut when it got officially released. It was still a bad movie, so don't
I'll be 100% honest with you. I've heard people say, certain movies like, oh, this movie sucks. Well, you gotta watch the director's cut. The director's cut is so much better, and I don't think that's ever been true for any movie I've seen. Like people say, like Daredevil director's cut is actually really good. Like or the producer's cut of Halloween 6 is actually surprisingly good. No, I don't think.
I don't think it ever goes from sucks to amazing. However, there are times where the director's cut is vastly superior. I'm thinking of The Abyss, for example. I don't know if you know the differences between the regular and special edition, but it is.
I saw the regular edition a long time ago, but
you saw the regular one. See, the regular one misses out half the point of the movie, which is why once you see the director's cut, it's like, oh wow, I'm never watching the theatrical one again. Like, it's pointless after that. Cinema Paradiso's one that I would say it's still a good movie without the extra stuff, but it's so much great stuff is added back in that it's impossible to recommend the regular version anymore. So there's ones like that. I'm sure there's one or two where it went from being mediocre to it's not bad now. I'm sure there's been a few of those, but not like it never goes up like double points. It's usually like it'll go up a point or two maybe.
Yeah, like I could definitely see there being preferred versions and stuff, but the way some people act about certain movies, it's like, well, normally it sucks, but this edition is actually really good. Like I don't think it's ever jumped that far.
Actually, Blade Runner might be a big one. The theatrical cut to either director's cut or final cut's a pretty big jump, because the theatrical cut has this narration in which Harrison Ford sounds bored like throughout the whole thing. So not that it's terrible, but like there is examples, but like you say, the ones that people bring up are it's like, oh, these great, these turds, these absolutely awful movies. No, but the director's cut's quite good. I'm not feeling it. Right, so I've got stuff to plug and I've got things to announce and all kinds of things. So I'll do exciting stuff first for October. Of course, we're doing a bunch of extra episodes over October. You're getting at least 4 episodes a week for the month, which is probably going to kill us, but you're going to have it. It's going to be great. November, the first week, we're going to take off since we worked so hard in October, and we'll be back to our usual 2 per week in the second week of November. So October's going to be packed. We've got a lot of voting going on right now for October. We always have 1 vote for patrons for the following month for 1 episode. This month we have 2 per patron plus a public one. The public one's Werewolves, so you can vote in that. There'll be a link in the description below to get to that. The 2 patron ones are Classics and Knee High Mischief, which is like villains who are small, so like Critters, Gremlins, Puppet
Ghoulies.
Master, Ghoulies, that's the other one. So that's the options and the votes. And the other thing I want to announce, actually, which this is the first time I've announced in this, because technically that stuff I've mentioned in a few episodes, but this thing is new. Over the course of October, me and Tim is a small extra little series for the month, 1 per week, in chunks of 25. We're going to count down our top 100 horror movies each. So week 1 you'll get 100 to 76. And then that'll be quick fire. We're not going to like spend a lot of time talking about them, because if we did that, it would ruin, like, because we've not done all the movies before on streams. We will eventually. We don't want to ruin the conversation for them. So it'll be fairly quick fire, but we're going to do that. That should be fun.
And if you followed us on like social media, like on Twitter and Instagram and stuff last year, we would do weekly or daily posts about them. So some of it might be familiar, but we'll also take a look and redo a little bit stuff. Might switch some things around after movies we watched this year or whatnot.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You can let me know in the comments or on Twitter if you're interested in this. But one of the things that we do on a Facebook group, or we used to anyway, we don't really participate now as much because we're so busy just doing movies for the show. So there's no point, because me and Tim would have almost identical scores anyway. But for the Octoberthon, we have like a sort of point system where you get points for watching X amount of new movies, and you get bonus points for like completing a bunch of like categories and kind of things. If you would like that to be made available, it's just an Excel spreadsheet, But if you'd like that to be made available, and then like tell us your totals at the end of the month, and you know, maybe we'll like give some people a shout out if they're like, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that said, there's no way we can tell if you're actually watching the movies or if you're just cheating. So it's really just a fun exercise if you want to do that and want to like try and watch more horror movies. And maybe if you want recommendations, that was even another idea I had, is maybe at the start of the month do like a recommendation thing.
Oh, sure. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, but we're already doing 4. Like, we're doing a top 100 and we're doing 4 episodes a week. That's on too much. That said, if you would like a fun recommendation video, we could probably whip it up.
And also in general, I literally don't watch anything else other than horror movies in October. It's not super different than the rest of the year, but I'll probably be watching at least 2 a day. So even stuff that we don't do on the show, I'll probably tweet about or something. So if you know anyone's interested in stuff maybe we don't get around to talking on the show, I'm sure we'll have little comments on what we're watching or stuff we're recommending.
Yeah, that's how we end up doing extras, actually, because that happened last year where you said, "Oh, I'm watching this today," not for the show, you were just watching. I'm like, "Oh, I want to watch that. Let's do that." So I watched it as well, and then we just did an episode, and it ended up overflowing us. But so that's stuff that's coming. There's also, I'm not going to announce this yet, but there's actually a pretty cool announcement for November that'll be made next month. It's not specific to streams, but streams is kind of involved as well.
Okay.
So that's your tease. And it is Patreon related, but it's a cool new thing, and yeah, it'll be fun. So announcement coming next month. And I'll even add on, the first thing will be a free sample, even if you're not a patron, so that you can test it. You can see what it's like, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Announcement coming next month for that. But is that all the plugging? We've actually stretched this out. Like we stopped talking about the movie like 20 minutes ago. I do apologise. This is almost just gross. Just how much we've stretched this out beyond the movie. But so Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. That's what we were talking about. But yeah, so that is us. I mentioned the Patreon stuff. That's patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. There's a bunch of bonuses you can get over there, including voting primarily, but other stuff too. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. You can get Tim at
Tim Vargulish.
You can get me at Wibble89 if you want to. I already said the supporting thing. That's us. Yeah, I'm done.
That's it.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Keep watching scary movies. We will see you next time.